Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories. And if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting a like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. And let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now today's first story comes from the relationships subreddit from Just Throw It Away 5217. And says, I, 30 male, was planning to propose to my girlfriend, 25 female, this week, but her father passed away over the weekend. And I mean, the trigger warning is within the title, but it does contain parental death, so if you do want to skip it, please feel free to do so. Timestamps are always down in the description and along the timeline below. Thank you. Hi Reddit, I've been a long time lurker of this sub, but my first official post. I think I just need to get my mind off things for a minute, so writing this out is helpful. So I've been with my girlfriend for about 3 years now. We started seriously talking about marriage in June, and I told her I would like to propose by year end. The more we talked, the more we wanted an October wedding and decided on the 19th of next year. She said that she wanted at least a year to plan, so engagement would have to be by then. She's dropped hints over the last few months, not so subtly, about waiting for the ring so she could start planning. We had a trip around the mountains planned for this weekend, and I figured since the 19th is Friday, and the day we plan to leave, that would be the optimal time to propose. So even though I knew she was getting a little impatient, I figured the timing would be perfect and we could celebrate all weekend. On Friday night, we got some devastating news. Her father had a heart attack and we rushed to the hospital. He was alive when we got there, but did not make it through the night. My girlfriend is heartbroken. No one saw this coming. I am also extremely upset, as him and I had gotten pretty close over the last few years. I also was very upset because I had asked him at the end of August for his blessing and explained to him my whole plan. He was so excited for this and even mentioned it to me several times when we were at their house for supper last week. Saturday was kind of a blur, and Sunday we started to help her mother and brother make funeral arrangements. She was grieving, but we were getting through it together. Until last night. Last night she flipped on me. She told me that I'm a monster for not proposing by now, and that her dad will never see a ring or hear the story. I think deep down she's upset that he will not be there for the wedding. We all are, but I couldn't have foreseen this, or I would have proposed months ago. I don't know what to do. Part of me wants to show her the ring and tell her that I discussed it with him prior and that we have his blessing. I just feel like everything is messed up now, and I don't know what to do. Our mountains weekend is definitely off, obviously, and I was planning to wait to propose until things are stable again. But she is so upset with me. I didn't even know how to approach it. She slept on the couch last night, and I just want to hug her and tell her there's nothing I want more than her to be my wife and her dad to still be here. But I can't. She doesn't want me close to her. What can I do? Oh, dearie me, that is absolutely brutal, but it just feels like this is grief all over. Obviously, no excuse for calling him a monster for not proposing yet, and grief doesn't excuse that, of course, but this is what it is. Grief messes with people, it scrambles them. She's not angry at him, she's devastated that her dad won't be there, and OP was the only target in the room. Again, it doesn't excuse it, of course. Whenever situations with grief come up, I always talk about the grief that our family suffered some years back. Still with us in some ways, you know? But it was interesting how my different brothers and different family members reacted to what happened immediately after those deaths in different ways, like completely different ways. Like with my dad who had mesothelioma. And sorry, I'm not trying to take away from this story here, but he had 9 months and it was drawn out. It was horrible to watch. And my dad simply didn't deserve that. No one does. But I had one brother that completely broke down, was in bits. Another brother that seemed almost shocked it was happening, even though, you know, it wasn't a surprise at all, really. And then for me and the next brother, it was relief. It really was relief. And I don't mean that in a horrible way. It was just, you know, it was coming and I was just glad it was over for him. And this is going to sound really probably insensitive, but like me and that brother was in the back garden, not immediately after, of course, a few hours after, because it happened in the early morning. We're still there all day pretty much, but it was in the back garden. Me and him were just joking around about random stuff, you know. And basically what I'm coming to say is grief affects people in all sorts of different ways. Again, doesn't excuse behavior, but it's the way it is. A commenter says to OP, I think sitting her down and telling her something like, I've been speaking with your father about a plan for this weekend. I was going to propose whilst we're in the mountains and he loved the idea. He knew the whole plan. He even told your mum. I know this is not the perfect time for a proposal, so would you like to see the ring or shall we wait a little longer? Would work best. Don't go from, why haven't you proposed yet, to, bam, here's a ring. The most important part is that there was a plan and the dad did know about it. Leave it up to her whether she sees the ring and everything now, or whether you postpone to have a big proposal. Opie replies saying, I like this idea. My sister had been telling me that showing her the ring will ruin any big moment in the future, but I like the idea of giving her a choice. Honestly, if she's okay without the big proposal, I want to give her the ring. I want to be engaged, and I know she does too. I wasn't dragging this out for anything other than the perfect place/time. I think once I get off work tonight, I'll try to have this talk with her if she's speaking to me then. Commander says yes. At this point, please show her the ring. Tell her you were planning to propose during this trip and tell her about how you talked to her dad about this in August, etc. Especially that. Are her parents together? Would her dad have told her mum about this? In case you need corroboration that you actually did talk to her dad. And please try not to be too upset with her. Opie says, oh my gosh, I'm not upset with her, even a little bit. She couldn't have known my plan, and I know how much her dad meant to her. I'm the furthest thing from upset with her. I just want to make her feel better. I'm worried if I show her the ring, she'll think it's a pity proposal, or it will ruin it for her. Also, yes, her parents are together, and yes, mum definitely knows about my plan. I just know she's upset too, and don't want to pester her with this. I feel like it's probably the furthest thing from her mind. Commander says, 20 female. I think you should keep telling her that you're there for her and show her your support. Let her have her time alone right now and don't rush anything. But if she continues to be angry with you specifically about this and doesn't let go of it, I think you should tell her about the plans and the blessing. In that way, you can first wait and see if she comes around. It's only been a day, and then tell her about all of this when you decide it's a good time to propose. But you're one of the closest people to her, so it's unnecessary if you can't be close to her during this terrible time because of something that isn't even true. I believe though that she is just generally, obviously heartbroken and experiences a lot of feelings about everything. One of them being you not proposing in time, and that yesterday that was just what happened to put all her feelings into. And even if things seem incredibly badly timed, you got his blessing before he passed. That is beautiful. In the long run, it's going to be okay, even if right now it isn't. It never is when this kind of thing happens. Best of luck. Opie replies one more time and says, dang, every comment gives me something new to think about. I was just sold on sitting her down and telling her there is a ring and we have a father's blessing and asking if she wants to see it or wait. However, now I'm wondering if she will even be thinking of that when I come home. You're right, she's all over the place right now, but I totally get that. I think I'm just going to try and read her mood. I also have quite a few text messages between myself and her father since our initial discussion in August. Of me showing him the ring I picked and him saying he thought she'd love it, and him asking for the details of the plan and saying how excited he is for it, etc. I want to show her all of those too, but maybe it's best to give it a while. So 1.5 months later, Opie does come in with an update and says, hi guys, I'm back with awesome news. TLDR, we're engaged and everyone is doing better. Okay, so in my last post, my girlfriend was being very aggressive towards me about not proposing before her father passed away. She stayed relatively upset and cold towards me throughout the funeral, but afterwards it seemed like we started to get closer. That week was honestly living hell. Having to go to a man I truly cared for's funeral while his daughter is mad because she thinks I'm not proposing. All the while I am, but can't tell her right now. It sucked. However, time went on and things started to get better. 2 weeks after the funeral, early November, I talked to her mum and she helped me develop a new plan. I'd convinced my girlfriend to take the whole week of Thanksgiving off, which wasn't hard because she knew the first holiday without her father would be really hard. So I took her on a surprise trip, which was our original mountain trip, just later. Our plan was to leave Sunday evening and return Wednesday in time to help her family prep for Thanksgiving, so I decided Sunday was my day. Her mum took her out all day to help her get ready for our little getaway, aka distract her. I started setting up my proposal. I first took screenshots of all the conversations her dad and I had via text about the engagement and printed them out. I was actually able to turn it into 15 individual screenshots of conversation. So I made them into a little book. I also included the picture I took with him the day I asked for his blessing and the 2 pictures I had of us 3 all together. I packed our bags for the trip and decorated the house in flowers and balloons so she'd know something was up as soon as she opened the door. When she opened the door, she looked shocked and a little confused. Even more confused when I handed her a book and didn't get down on one knee. I'd initially intended to get down on one knee while she read through our conversations, but she started crying pretty hard and took the book to the couch in the living room, where I just kind of scooped her up in a hug and asked her to marry me. I had to awkwardly fish the ring out of my pocket, and we didn't have the magical get down on one knee moment. But through her tears, she shook her head yes and hugged me, which I thought was even better than expected. Once she regained her composure, she told me how excited she was, but asked if I would mind if we waited till Monday morning to go to the mountains because she wants to show her mum and brother the book and ring. I didn't care at all, and we ended up spending the night at her mum's house. We left Monday and had an amazing trip to the mountains, and we tried to hit all of her dad's suggested proposal spots while we were there and snapped pics, even though the weather was a lot colder than when our initial trip was planned. We had an amazing Thanksgiving with all our families, and now we cannot wait to start wedding planning. She decided she no longer wants to get married next October, and I obviously understood. Our wedding day is still TBD, but I couldn't be happier. Commenter says, awesome job OP. I love the idea for the book. I'm sure it must have meant a lot to her and her family. Best of luck planning the wedding and living your lives together. Another commenter quotes about the book again and says, wow, you hit it out the park. Amazing. So happy for you and your new fiance. That book sounds so touching, and all the photos. Wonderful. Opie says, thank you. I wish you could see the awkward old people Facebook style selfie he made us take the day I asked. I'm so grateful he did, but I still laugh a bit when I see it. Commenter says, as someone who was proposed to within weeks of a close parent's death, my mama, that is how it can be done without trying to be a detached happy moment in a sea of sadness. I couldn't think back on the lack of proposal without associating it with my mum's death and a horrible time in my life. You made it so that it was not only a happy moment for you both, but a testimony to both of your relationships with her father, and poetically ushers her into a new life without him, but with his blessing and his love. You're a good man, OP. Thanks for making me tear up in the bathroom at work. Bloody hell, the comments have got me going now, the bloody onion ninjas. The book is an absolute lovely thing to do as well, and I thought, oh, amazing that he did that for her. What a really, really sweet guy. But what do you guys make of this situation? I kind of don't want to go into another story now. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. Now, our next story is titled, Where do I, 28 male, even begin to inform my 28 female wife that I may have caught my younger brother, 23 male, and her younger married sister, 25 female, having sex in my parents' house? Fucking hell. The title really does say it all, but I'll provide the details. I'm at home now and my wife is in the other room on her tablet. Earlier this evening, I drove by my folks' place to drop off some floor tiles I got for my father. He and my mother are celebrating their anniversary and are out of state on vacation. There was like a house party going on the same street, and it forced me to have to park a bit further away than usual due to all the cars, and I didn't have access to my folks' garage door opener. So I park in front of a different house and walk a little ways. I go into the house through one of the side doors to get at the garage. When I get in the house, I'm immediately struck with the sounds of sex. I'm grossed out and confused at first, thinking it's my parents. They're both in their 60s. Before that image can settle, I glance through the door in the house that connects to the garage and my brother's car is parked there. He doesn't live with my parents. For a second I'm like, okay, creepy, he took a date back to my folks' place, but reasoned it's because he has a messy apartment. Not wanting to cause a scene or ruin his fun, I duck out thinking I'd come back tomorrow. On my way back to my car, I noticed the car parked in front of mine actually belongs to my sister-in-law. Now, I didn't see her in that house and have no idea what she sounds like during sex. All I know is that her car was there. My folks moved here later in life, so I'm not super familiar with their neighbors. There is a chance sister-in-law was at the house party. She is a married woman with 2 kids. I haven't said anything to the wife yet. Part of me is like, keep your mouth shut and pretend you saw nothing, and the other part knows I ought to tell my wife. What the heck do I do? It's a tricky situation, isn't it? One that you've been forced into. And the thing is, he didn't even see anything. He heard something, clocked his brother's car in the garage, and then spotted his sister-in-law's car outside. And the brain did the rest of the work, which, in some ways is worse, right? Because now he can't even tell his wife what he saw, only what he heard and then inferred. But in situations like this, I'm always thinking, the keeping your mouth shut instinct is totally understandable, and I get why you would think. I even thought along those lines, but it's a trap, because if it comes out later, and it always seems to come out, and his wife finds out that he knew, it becomes a whole different kind of betrayal, doesn't it? But I think you can just be honest with it, gently just say what you heard and I don't know for certain, and then just explain what you said here. But a commenter says to OP, there's nothing wrong with being honest and telling your wife what you saw. You aren't saying that her sister is cheating, you're literally just giving facts. I heard sex, I saw my brother's car, I saw your sister's car, there was a party going on at the neighbor's house. Your sister could be with my brother, or she could be at the party. OP replied saying, I've decided to do as someone suggested and drive by my folks tomorrow around the same time and see if the car is there. I'm also going to ask my brother why he's doing sexual things in my folks' house. I'm then going to ask him directly if it was her because her car was there. Based on his answers and how truthful I think he's being, I'll go to my wife about it. No sense in embarrassing my brother too much if he just had a random girl at the house. Commenter says, when you're by the house, call your sister-in-law. See what happens. Either that or stay in your car and see who leaves the house. OP says it's a different day now. If I drive down there and her car is still there, it's obviously cheating. Edit, I know the truth now, but it won't let me update for 24 more hours. Damn, when that post first came out, that must have been annoying for the people reading this post, like, can't tell you what's happening for 24 more hours. Ooh. So it was a couple of days later that OP did come back in and said, well, I had the day off today and it was still gnawing at me. To catch everybody up, I'd gone by my parents' house yesterday to drop off some floor tiles. My brother, who does not live with them, had his car in the garage and there were sounds of two people having sex. As not to interrupt and cause embarrassment, I left without saying anything. My sister-in-law's car was parked on the street, but there was a house party, so she may have been there. Well, today I went to drop off the tiles and neither car was there. I neglected to mention any of this to my wife and decided to just talk to my brother first to see what was going on. As he wasn't there, I figured I'd go pick up a case of beer and drive over to see him. Make up some story about being in the neighborhood. As I'm on my way to do this, I get a call from my wife who sounds a little distraught. She informs me that she just got off the phone with her sister and that she's apparently getting divorced. Sister-in-law and her husband actually haven't been living in the same apartment for like a week now. Hearing this, I expected her to tell me that sister-in-law got caught cheating. But it was actually the opposite. The guy I thought I would be helping, well, it turns out he's been having a 6-month-long affair with their kid's former preschool teacher. Sister-in-law had been despairing for a week, having to tell anyone about this because she's ashamed of it. So I breathed a sigh of relief, knowing that if I had stumbled on what I stumbled on, at least there was no real wrongdoing there. I still kept it from my wife and opted to talk to my brother. I don't usually show up out of the blue, so he was a little anxious that I was there. I told him about me and what I heard, and he apologized profusely. I then asked him about sister-in-law's car, and he got quiet. Well, it turns out sister-in-law wasn't telling my wife the whole truth. Apparently, sister-in-law has known about her husband's affair for several months now, but didn't confront him until just recently. While worrying about who to talk to about all this, she bumped into my brother at a gas station. He told me that she basically broke down crying over it, and for the last few months he'd been letting her confide in him, and he's kept quiet about it. They next started meeting up and having coffee together, and as my brother has depression, he was recommending a few good therapists. There was never any major flirting in their meetups, they just talked about their kids. My brother has a daughter from a previous relationship, so he talked about her. Sister-in-law's husband, who did not know his infidelity had been discovered, began to grow suspicious of my brother and sent him a message asking about what's going on with his wife, why they are suddenly liking each other's posts so much and texting. When sister-in-law learned of the message, she saw red and finally confronted her husband and he walked out. That was last week. That takes us to yesterday. They went out for coffee again. Sister-in-law mentioned being worried about how to tell her folks and her husband's folks about his affair, but said that he was feeling much better with him not in the house. She kept giving him signs, talking about her dead bedroom, talking about being lonely, talking about sexual frustrations, and my brother took the bait and took her to my folks' place and the rest is history. When asked why he chose my folks' place, he said because they have a better TV? What? And he had left his guitar there and needed to pick it up anyway. Told my wife when I got home, and she turned from being sad and nervous for her sister to quite playful about everything. So it's looking like my kids might have double cousins at some point. Lol. That better TV line has completely thrown me out and picking the guitar up at the same time. It's just the thought process behind it, like him tapping his chin. Where can we hook up? I know, my parents are out of town. They got a cracking TV while we're getting freaky on the sofa or wherever. Gonna definitely need that high-spec TV for that. And whilst I'm there, I can grab my guitar. Play you a little tune afterwards. Oh, bloody hell. We have to talk about music during a sex scene. Seabat has popped into my head now. And if I have to think about it, you have to think about it too. I'm kind of sorry, but I'm not at the same time. But what do you guys make of this story? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's have another one. It's titled, Am I the Arsehole for Wanting to Report a Teacher Who Keeps Cancelling Recess? So, to start off, my son, he's 8 years old / 2nd grade, is an exceptional student and child overall. He's very polite, smart, and dedicated to his education. He's in chess club, robotics, and does sports also. He's a little anxious and can be shy. Just to give you an idea of my son. Here's the dilemma. He has a math class before recess. The students in said math class have been misbehaving and not paying attention during class. Because of this, their teacher has been taking away their recess as punishment. She doesn't single out the kids that are misbehaving, but instead punishes the whole class. He's still doing his work, keeping his head low, and he had a 95 in that class. I messaged the teacher and asked her if there is anything my son can do to make sure he gets to still have recess, as this is a very important part of his day. She said no. If my lesson is being interrupted, recess will continue to be cancelled until I can get through my lesson. I was at a loss here because on one hand, I totally understand where she's coming from, as I've gone on field trips with his class and I can see what a handful about 4 to 5 students of his class are. On the other hand, my son needs his time to unwind to be able to focus on his other classes. He's gotten to the point where he is crying every day before school from anxiety about his recess being cancelled, and every day for the past week it's been cancelled. It's affecting our mornings a lot because my son used to get right up to go to school, and now he cries and drags his feet to leave. I don't know what to do. I want to escalate the situation, but my son's dad says I'm over-exaggerating. I looked up the laws about recess where we live, Texas, and it says schools 6th grade and under require recess time of at least 30 minutes per day, and it can't be taken away from them as punishment. Would it be bad to escalate this to the principal or counselor of the school? I don't want the teacher to think I'm overstepping on her lesson. Should I maybe approach her again in a different, more assertive manner? I know teachers have a hard enough job and are underpaid, but I also know my son deserves to be heard. Am I the arsehole for wanting to escalate the situation? The dad saying that she's overreacting is actually doing my head in this story, because your son is 8 years old. He sounds like a perfect student from what you're telling us, and he's crying every morning before school. You know, that's not overreacting. That's a child telling you something is genuinely wrong. And as far as I can see in this situation, you're very understanding of teachers and the pressures and everything put on teachers. You didn't go in, guns blazing. You asked politely if there was anything your son could do to still earn his recess, and most people would try to work with you on that. And she basically said, not my problem, which I don't agree with. I don't agree with the collective punishment anyway. And I would personally go to the principal, not because I want to get her in trouble, but because she's already told you that she won't budge and your child is suffering because of it. So you're left with very little moves here. And in fact, you looked it up and said, it's a legal requirement anyway. You've been shut down in every other path. Your child is suffering because of it. It's simply not fair in my opinion. So in the comments, Pretend Person says, maybe let the principal know that this teacher needs more support. That 4 or 5 students are ruining the class for everyone else, and this is interfering with your child's education. I agree that frequent group punishment is problematic though. Hope you reply saying thank you, and yes, I agree. I remember when I was in elementary school, kids were sent to the principal's office if there was a constant distraction. I'm not sure why that's being provided as a solution. Dragonfeet says sure, escalate it but don't go after the teacher. She's trying to teach in an untenable situation. Go in and demand that the disruptive students are removed. Opie says absolutely. I think this is what concerns me. I want to make sure she doesn't get in trouble, as I don't think she's a bad teacher. I just want this resolved. New Date says, not the arsehole. Collective punishment is lazy as well as unfair. Not only are most of the class losing their break when they've done nothing wrong, but there's naught they can do to stop it happening again. I think the original idea behind teachers doing this is so other kids will be pissed off and exert peer pressure on the misbehaving ones to change. But that's not how it works in reality. It's also stupid because there's not an incentive to do the right thing. Even the well-behaved kids will soon get fed up and decide if they're going to be punished anyway, they might as well do something to earn the punishment. Teachers shouldn't be teachers if they don't have the guts to discipline individual wrongdoers. Opie says that's what my son said she told them. She asked the good students to pressure the bad ones to behave. I'm like, ma'am, if you can't get them to behave, my shy son will absolutely not be able to pressure them. And the top commenter on this post says, not the arsehole. You voiced your concerns to the teacher first, and they've been dismissed. It's time to go up the chain of command with your concerns. So it was a couple of days later after this that Opie came in with an update and said, hey guys, oh my god, I didn't expect this to blow up. Thank you guys for the comments and help. I talked to the vice principal today. I'll provide an update later today as I'm at work, but thank you again for everyone who helped me with this. Update 2. Hey guys, once again, thanks to everyone who helped make this decision. I can't believe this post blew up the way it did. Anyways, so I ended up decided I wanted to talk to the principal or vice principal face to face to explain what was going on. Our school is a very small school in a very big district, so we really are grateful that our school usually feels like a community with the parents, students, and teachers being close. I have nothing against this teacher, and while I appreciate everyone's enthusiasm, I did not want her fired or to get her in severe trouble. I truly don't think she meant harm and is just trying to do her best with the resources she has. Okay, so back to the vice principal. I went into her office and she actually caught me off guard and congratulated me because my son actually took a one-on-one test with her and he did really good on it. She complimented how polite and sweet he is and just overall what a great student he is. I told her thank you so much, and that's actually why I was there. I told her how my son is a great student and is usually very enthusiastic to go to school and has been having a lot of anxiety around going because he's being withheld from recess along with the whole class. I then told her once again, I do not want to get the teacher in trouble, however I do find this unacceptable as my son is an absolutely amazing student. She nodded and agreed. Then I told her apart from being a great student, I know for a fact that the law in our state states they must have recess and recess cannot be used as punishment. She looked a bit confused and said, well, I think it's fine if it happens maybe once or twice, but I definitely don't think her doing it so much is okay. I said, well, actually in our district's handbook, it also states the same thing as the law in our state, and the handbook specifies the age range that must have recess and once again cannot be used as punishment even for the kids who are acting out. When I said this, she seemed a little more upset, more reserved, and not as happy as when we first started this conversation. I continued anyways and told her I really need this resolved immediately as my son cannot continue having this anxiety. It is affecting his way of thinking about his education. She nodded and said that she'd be talking to this teacher, but that said teacher was out today. I just told her I think it'd probably be a good idea to go over the district's handbook with all the teachers and make sure no one else is doing this. I asked around with parents who had no idea this was happening. One parent told me their kindergartner had been withheld from recess a couple of times. This parent is also going to go speak to the principal. Anyways, vice principal agreed though I couldn't read her expression. I'm not sure if she was upset that she low-key got called out on the handbook and law of our state. Anyways, that was yesterday. Today and yesterday, my son and his whole class had recess. I will continue monitoring the situation. My son was happy yesterday and today. He's educated on the handbook and the law now, so he said he'd be calling it out if the teacher tried to withhold them again. I told him that's fine, but regardless if she tries it again, I'll be standing up for him, alongside other parents who are now aware of the situation. For those who called me a bad parent because I was even questioning whether I should escalate, God bless you. You don't know me and I know for a fact I'm raising a wonderful little man, even though I have social anxiety myself. It felt great to stand up for him. I've never been in this situation because once again, our school is tight-knit and small. We all have always got along well, hence me not wanting to get this teacher in trouble. I know how much work she puts in and how much stress the district and our state puts on these teachers due to STAR testing. I like finding resolutions, I like giving people grace, but I will continue standing up for my son. If anything changes, I'll be back on here to update you guys. Anyway, happy spring y'all. And good on the mum, I think, in this situation for calling that school out for what was going on. like OP said, she didn't want to get the teacher in trouble. She didn't want to get anyone in trouble. She just wanted the situation resolved in a fair way for her son because it was causing her son anxiety, which is fucking awful. And I think it was equally as bad, or if not worse, expecting these kids to peer pressure the other kids into behaving right. I don't think that's right at all. They're fucking 8 years old. But maybe you have a completely different opinion on the matter. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Just a huge thank you for being here today, as always, for getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being here. Truly is absolutely amazing. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.